Hello, and welcome to Conversations with Cully and Conlon. I am your host, the best podcast slash radio host in the universe, Steve Cully. And with me, as always, my beautiful, delightful, entrepreneurial co host, Maria Conlon. Hello, Maria.
Hello, how are we?
And back again, back by popular demand after a tremendous first day of listeners from her podcast, Miss Erika Higgins. Erika, thank you.
Of course. How is everybody?
Oh, thank you both for take two. We're doing a take two from yesterday. So it's exciting, very exciting. Um, I wanted to start again, and now we'll let Maria talk about it a little bit. Initially, your relationship, how you guys met.
Yeah, I mean, Erica did such a great job of it yesterday, but I'll talk about it again. I mean, we met through college. She was involved with athletics and, we ran into each other, got to talking. And then I actually remember, Erica, you having us like to your house a couple of times too, right?
Yes,
Back in
Yeah.
yes,
college.
Yep.
Um,
she
in
definitely
college,
did.
like when you get some home cooked meals, it's always like a huge yes, a resounding yes from us. So,
Yeah.
she was nice enough to host a couple of us. She was 2 years older than me, so she knew some of our upperclassmen already. Um, but we immediately hit it off with her, and we've been friends ever since. I would say we probably see each other more over the last couple of years than we did like
Right.
immediately post college. We only live like 15 minutes away from each other.
Yep.
So we probably don't see each other as much as we should or could, but with kids and um, their activities and stuff like that, it gets in the way at times. But I think that a cool part about our friendship, and I always say this like about UConn in general, is that even if it's been a while since you've seen somebody, when you see them, it's like you just saw them yesterday. So I always value friendships and relationships like that. So she makes it really easy. Her husband Pete is a great guy as well, and I've had the opportunity to spend some time with her son Owen and meet the little guys as well. Although they're probably big now since last time I saw them, but yeah, just all good stuff.
Now, Maria, you may or may not remember, I also cooked dinner a few times for you girls. Do you
You did
remember coming over
not
for?
at your home house though. That's like a
No, at
little
our apartment,
yeah.
but
So that's just a little bit different.
I made homemade pasta sauce.
Yeah,
My
you did.
sauce was my
It
sauce
was
was
good
great.
too. Again, it was always nice when someone would give you a meal that was not from like South Cap or the quads or anything like that. So those were always fun days.
Erica, I tried to be nice on Valentine's Day for all the girls, and we had them over to our apartment, and I cooked a pasta dinner for them. Pasta, salad, garlic bread, everything. I remember I was so nervous, and uh, we had the whole team over because I mean we knew a few of them. I didn't know all of them,
Yeah.
and I'm just looking up as Swing Cash walks in. Asia Jones walks in. I'm like, hi, how are you? Please don't hurt me. Yeah, I mean, it was so much fun. I love doing it, and they ate. They ate everything. So I mean, I credit myself for being an amazing cook, but they definitely enjoyed it. They
Last
definitely.
night I was thinking about more stories about Maria and I, and there's a
Yeah,
there's a few that as I was laying in bed at three
did
o'clock in the
stick
morning,
out.
they
Yeah.
did. And there's a few, but the one that really stuck out is that we used to go to Bidwell Tavern on
Oh,
Wednesday
rocks and
night
wings, rocks and
for
wings.
Rocks and Wings, and we were all living up there one summer. Maria, I don't know if you remember this. My brother was up, and we went to Rocks and Wings, and I had a huge exam the next day, so I left to go back to campus, and you took my brother. and it was you and Dee, and I think Jeff was with you guys as well, and he got so wasted with all of you, and
That sounds about right.
he threw up
Yeah.
in the bathroom. And I remember hearing the story that you had asked him, you're like, "Are you all right, Ross?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And you're like, "Well, looks like you got puke all over you, so I don't know if you're really okay."
Yeah, I was usually like the concerned, a little bit more reserved of the bunch, that used to go out, because not everybody would like go out. But I feel like our stops were always, so we would do Bidwell on Wednesday night. Then from Bidwell, would go to the
Penalty box, right?
penalty box, which was down the
Yes.
street. I'm pretty sure we dragged him along there. And then
That's definitely where he was with you guys.
yeah, and then usually it was like late night at Sneakers, or we would go back to like one of the apartments or something. I don't remember what we did exactly that night, but those were like our normal
That was our
stopping.
routine.
Because I mean, back then, like there really wasn't that much on campus. You know, you had
No.
Teds
No.
and Huskies, which were Huskies you really only went to like late night to dance.
Yeah, that was it.
They
It
like
was
went to Teds if you wanted to play photo hunt and like play some stuff on the jukebox. I was never like a civic pub person.
I didn't
I
like
always
the
felt
pub
like
either.
that was like a different vibe, so I never really went there. But now you go on campus and it's like it's a metropolis there. I mean, they
Yeah.
have so much stuff. It's kind of crazy. I mean, back then we didn't have any of that stuff, so like we were at the mercy of whatever we could find. And everybody always treated us really good, so that was helpful.
So one of the things we talked about yesterday, and I wanted to touch on again, both of you as parents and having careers, the organization that goes into it with having your kids are all active, your kids are all playing sports, and you've raised them so well. They're respectful, they talk to you, they look you in the eye, and talk a little bit about the organization that goes into that. You know, how you manage them playing sports, how you manage them doing their homework, and you also manage your career, and both of you grown tremendously in your career, and Maria especially, I mean, owns a business on top of that. I mean, I just like I there's not enough hours in the day. So how do you do it? And, Erika, you can start us off.
So it's something that I try to perfect, because my AAA personality wants to make sure that I don't skip a beat. But believe me, I have forgotten a child here and there.
That's okay.
It's definitely happened. But we've had to do some trial and error in regards to what works for my husband and me to
Right.
get us organized. So we just use our Google Calendar, and we put stuff in, and you
live off that, the Google Calendar, and you also write a lot down.
Yeah, I'm old school. I still have a paper calendar too. But ultimately, I also had to take into consideration each one of my kids is so different. So
Really?
Owen, so different. Owen is my very quiet, takes a little while to get to know him. He needs to be focused, so he has to do his homework at the kitchen table. Whereas Jack, he can do it sitting on a park bench and not be distracted.
You trust him to do it on his own.
Yeah, it's just a different, so you've got to just know what your kids' strengths are and what their weaknesses are, and be able to kind of manage that as well. So it's an art. And I'm still working on it.
It is, and that's what I like. Being a guy, that's what I'm so impressed with. Because just starting this career, like I couldn't imagine having to do it and raise kids and raise them the right way. Because so many kids fall through the cracks and so many kids end up with problems. But you guys have both managed to have incredible careers and raise such amazing children. So that's why I ask, because I could never picture being able to do it. And Maria, same with you. What are your thoughts on how you get it done?
Man, I'm a hot mess. I got to be honest. I have an old school calendar. I've tried to do like the Google Calendar on my phone. It's funny because like for basketball season, our practice schedule, all of that is in Google. Um, our AAU stuff is in Google. My finance job, which is like my main gig, which allows me to do all the other stuff that I do, I'm a little bit more organized with because it's a little more turnkey at this point. And then, the restaurants, my coaching that I do, my private sessions. What I've gotten really good at as I've gotten older is trying to not be everything to everything. So in the
You
beginning,
can't, yeah, right.
I was really bad at delegation, and like I'm not necessarily like a control freak, but I like to know what's going on, especially if it's representing my brand in some way. So
Right.
I've tried to be like really good at partnering in my businesses with people who have strengths that just are not in my wheelhouse. So like I am horrible with spreadsheets. I'm horrible with Google Calendar. Excel drives me crazy. So I actually have a friend who's partners with me in a couple of my businesses and also coaches with me. Her name's Stacy. She's amazing at all of that stuff.
Yes.
Um, where I'm kind of like big picture relationship builder. I'll put in the hours. Like I don't mind doing the grunt work and doing the coaching of the lessons, being at practice, all of that stuff, which is kind of ironic because I'm a little bit of a control freak in terms of my practice agendas and like all that stuff. Like I do all the film for all of the games. I do all of the scouts. Not that I wouldn't give that to someone else. It's just it's a strength of mine and I can get through it really quickly. So I think for me what I've done with my businesses and my career is really focus on the stuff that I'm really good at and be better about delegating the stuff I'm not great at, which frees up more time for me to do the stuff that I'm really good at. And I find that when you're doing stuff that's against the grain for you, it takes you so much longer and it's draining. So what would take Stacy 5 minutes to do takes me 50. And it's 50 minutes of like unbearable focus that is just not my strength. So in regards to work, that's kind of how I've been. In regards to juggling it with family, like I've set non-negotiables. So
Right.
like, I get up, I make my kids lunch every day. I make sure unless I have like a really early meeting or I have to coach early, which sometimes I do, like I'm the last person that my daughter sees before she goes to school. Um, Same thing after school. Like today I have to run a practice, so she won't be there, but I'll make sure that I pick her up tonight from
Right.
practice. So, I try to be really good about that. I don't miss a lot when it comes to her. What stinks with coaching and having a kid that's playing is that there are some times where I have conflicts where she
Right.
has a game the same night as me, and I hate that. Like I'm going to be in big trouble if she doesn't end up coming and playing for me at GFA because she's going to have a game and I'm going to have to miss it because I have a game. So, I'll kind of deal with that as it comes. That's just part of it, right? Like, but
Are
right
you
now,
gonna encourage her to come to GFA, or are you gonna let her make her own
yeah,
choice?
she's funny because like she wants to play for me, and I'm like, "Are you sure you want to play for me?" But at the same time, I'm a realist, and I know that sometimes it's not great to play for a parent. It's funny. I know
Right.
yesterday we were
It's
talking a little
challenging.
bit about like bullying and things of that nature. And I went to her, the end of her practice, because I try not to go to the whole thing because then she's looking at me the whole time for approval. So I try to go for like the last half an hour and just kind of see the end of it. And on the way home, she was telling me about how a couple kids on the team were fat shaming another kid on the team. And it was just an ironic conversation because we had just talked about that. And, I'm trying to get her to the point like, so she asked me, were you ever bullied or were you ever this? Or do you think that I will be? Because she really hasn't to that point yet. And I talked a little bit about it yesterday. For her, I think her biggest hurdle is going to be people constantly comparing her to me
Right.
uh, in multiple different ways. I think she already sees that a little bit, but as she gets older, it's just going to be magnified. So I think a lot right now is again just encouraging her to be her authentic self, having as many conversations as I can with her about different things, and that's kind of how I manage that. I mean, the cool part for me is that she's done with school in 2 weeks and I have her all summer. So she'll be with me every single day. If I got a meeting, she's coming. If we're going here, we'll be training every day. So I kind of make up time in the pockets that I can because there are times during my busy season where I can't be there. So that's kind of how I manage that. My parents are really great. My mom goes to all of her games and all of that stuff. So at least she has representation when I can't be there. So it's not easy, like Erika said. I mean, and she's juggling multiple kids with sports. My young one is not there yet. So I don't really have that in the mix. But um, she's busy enough for like 4 kids right now. So it's a fun time, but it is difficult to juggle. I think the big thing again is just being present when you're in their company and not being distracted. So I try to really just be present when she's home. I try to get as much stuff done before she comes home so that I'm there.
And you do such a great job with that. So since you brought it up, we will go into bullying. And Erika talked on her podcast about a situation that she handled. Um, it's so prevalent these days, and it's becoming more and more damaging. It's, forcing children to have to go to therapy. Some children have to take meds. I mean, it gets out of control, and some schools handle it well, some schools don't. And I agree with both of you. The parents have to stay on top of things, and a lot of times they don't. Um, just talk to me a little bit about your experiences with bullying and how you've handled it, personally and with your kids.
So, like I said, I think the biggest variable from when the three of us grew up was social media. The worst thing that ever happened when we were kids was we either fought it out or wrote a note and the note got passed and, it was over. And now things just linger and they stay on, and I don't think kids have the social or emotional intelligence to be able to have social media or cell phones. I mean, listen, most adults don't have the social or emotional intelligence to have cell phones and social media. So it's a hard thing to navigate. And then when you add in the fact that kids can say whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want, and it's out there and they don't really understand how hurtful it can be, it's a hard thing to navigate as a parent. And I'll say the biggest thing for me is constantly trying to reassure my kids that, I always say you do you, meaning other
Right.
kids do them and we do us. We take care of us. Because if everybody worries about what everybody else is doing, then it weighs on them in their mental health even more, and comparing each other. And there's just so much that goes into it. And again, every one of my kids is different in how they handle it. But I don't let my kids get cell phones until middle school. So 7th grade is where middle school starts for our town. So my Owen was the last of his friends to get a cell phone, and it was torture for me because he's always like, this one has this phone and this. I'm like, dude, it's not going to happen. Just stop arguing about it. And then the same thing happened with Jack. So he got one starting this year, but he has no social media. And then when Owen got Snapchat, which he was the last of his friends to get it, and I'll never forget, Sunday was over for dinner, and I had shown him the contract because I was anti-Snapchat. I didn't want him to ever have it. And my husband wrote out a contract, and it was a full-page contract of, if you get Snapchat, these are the consequences. This is what happens if. And Uwe was like, this needs to be patented. This is the best thing ever, and all parents need to do it. But you need to follow up on what you say the consequences are. And it is the devil. I will just be honest. I hate Snapchat. I just wish it would implode because it's a very hard thing to parent.
And Maria is a more of a non-TikTok fan, but Snapchat, obviously similar. What are your feelings, Maria? Bullying, how you experienced it and how you've handled it, and what I thought you talked about yesterday, with the situation on your team was, stepping up and really being a leader and nipping it in the bud before things could have gotten a lot worse.
Yeah, my daughter's in seventh grade. She still doesn't have a cell phone. I I keep telling her she's not getting one until she gets her license. I don't know how
I,
realistic that will be because it's just
I agree with you. Keep fighting.
it's a lot because they're calling for rides and stuff now. So I do see that component of it. And as life gets a little crazier,
Sure.
we might have to give in before that. I just find social media and the whole Snapchat, TikTok, like there's just too much information out there that's toxic.
Very toxic.
Even forget
Very.
about the bullying part of that for a second. Like there's too much information at their disposal once they get a cell phone that you can't
Yeah.
necessarily
You can't
100%
control.
control
Yeah.
that I just don't want her exposed to. I just don't think she's ready to be exposed to it. Once I feel like she is, maybe that'll be a different conversation. And then the Snapchat thing, I think Erika spoke on this yesterday. What I hate about it is that like it disappears, right? So you can send
Yeah.
something really hurtful and then it disappears and there's no track of it. Or at least above our pay grade trying to hustle that down.
Trying to take
there's
a
a way
screenshot.
somewhere CIA or somebody to find the information. But um so I just think there's a lot of that. And there's still just old school bullying. So we had an incident with one of our teams where I had a parent email me and say that there were girls on her team bullying her. And part of it was because, she was a little less talented than some of the kids on the team and was really being made to feel crappy, right? So I addressed the entire organization in an email and basically said that this is not how we run our organization. This is not a good representation of what we want. And that if I heard that again, they would just be removed from the program. And, I got a lot of really great feedback from parents because again, I think it's different when you hear your mom and dad saying it versus when you hear someone, even if it's someone else's mom and dad, right? Like it comes across different. It could be brought in a little bit more favorably. And I think they take it a little more serious when it comes from a head of an organization. So that was really important to me because I'm really big on our brand and I don't want people to leave our program because their kid doesn't feel comfortable. Like I'm all about the experience and every kid having a great experience, whether they're scoring 20 points a game or they're not. And I don't care if you're the best player on the team or in our entire program. If you're going to behave that way, then this is not the right fit for you. So it was really important for me to set that standard early on. We haven't had any incidents since, at least none that are brought to my attention. I mean, I can't control random stuff that happens behind the scenes, but
Right.
to my knowledge, nothing's happened since. And you know, that's just not acceptable. And we talked about this yesterday. Like I think bullying is a parent problem. I just
Yeah.
think parents don't pay close enough attention
No, they don't.
to what their kids are doing, what their kids are saying. I said yesterday, like I could spot a bully from a mile away. You can just tell by the way the kids act, by the way they walk, that gives this superior complex. And I mean, I didn't say this yesterday, but I'll say it now. A lot of the kids that I knew were bullies when I was younger. They're not doing anything with their life now. I got to be honest. Like it just sets you up for this entitled path of thinking that you're better than everybody, maybe not focusing on the correct things when you're younger to make you successful later. Um, so I just think overall it's toxic and eventually karma comes back around and there's going to be somebody else that's going to be bullying you. And it's like, all right, well, you were just doing this your whole childhood. What do you think is going to happen? So, again, I think it's a parent problem. I do think there's a way for parents to nip it in the bud early. And I encourage all parents to pay a little bit closer attention to what their kids are doing.
Erika, I wanted to ask you a little bit on the other side of things about your relationship because same thing. You have a relationship, you have your kids. everyone's busy, everyone's running around, everyone has jobs. And then, we'll obviously talk about the Kansas City Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker's speech about his idea of a married relationship. But how does everything work and still jive with your husband, who's a saint? How do you make sure that you get the time you need together and you keep your relationship solid and romantic or whatever?
That's a great question. So it took me a lot of years to train him, and I say that jokingly, because it was a lot. Like, I was pulling the weight for a lot of years, and I finally was like, dude, I'm gonna change the locks on the door if you can't help me, because I'm drowning. And at that point, I was working 18-hour days in hospice, and it was crazy. I was like, I'm gonna end up in a mental institution. So he is a legit amazing partner. He does his stuff, I do my stuff. If we get irritated with each other, like the other day, I didn't clean up the kitchen after he got dinner ready, and I was like, I forgot. And he's like, yeah, that's not cool. So we got into a little spat about it, and my older one hates when we get into any kind of argument. And he was like, Mom, just say you're gonna clean it up next time and let's move on. Like, he's the peacemaker.
Yeah.
And we did, and it was fine. But we do work very well together. We're a good team. And I'm also the planner. He is an awful, and he will admit it if you ask him, awful planner. He doesn't plan dates. This is not his thing. So I'm constantly planning stuff because I know how important it is for us to be able to spend time together, and try to have conversation, maybe not about kids all the time.
Right.
So we try. I will be honest, since my father's passed, we haven't had any time together because it's been really, it's been crazy. And my head hasn't been in the right place either. So it is definitely something we need to prioritize. But now we're getting into crazy baseball season because Owen starts travel ball next weekend, and Jack's still doing travel soccer, and Reed's doing coach pitch baseball, and Pete's coaching, and he's going to be coaching the Amity girls basketball team, their summer league. So he's done that the last couple of years. So
that's so much.
It gets busy. But we do have to make it a priority, and we're not the best at it, but we definitely, or I'll say I plan, and we try to do it.
Maria, same with you. I mean, you have multiple jobs, you have your restaurant. How do you manage all that along with coaching, parenting, and keeping your relationship fresh, keeping your partner, mixing in romance and making sure that you spend enough time together?
Yeah, it's during basketball season that's really, really hard.
Yeah.
Because I'm practicing until late. I'm getting home late, or if I have games, I'm late. And with the little guy, it's even tougher because we're trying to keep him to a schedule at sleep time. So we try to, like, at least once a week, like, even if it's just do like a coffee date.
That's nice.
We try to do that. It's really not easy. We try our hardest. There's some weeks that go by where I feel like we're two ships passing in the night. Like I said, that's mainly during basketball season. So I think it's really the same concept that I have with my daughter. Is I try to, like, when I'm home, turn my phone off, be present when I'm home, have the conversations that we need to have. And then when I'm not in season, it's almost like I'm making up for time for when I'm not here. And that's really all there is to it. I mean, we used to do like a specific date night. We tried once a week. That's like impossible right now with Layla's schedule and everything else. Like, to Erika's point, now that the baseball's starting, like, it just gets harder. But we still find time to be connected in some way, whether that's, like I said, like a 20-minute conversation while the kids are still asleep and it's coffee or whatever. That's really all I have there. I mean, it's not,
Yeah.
it really is
Yeah.
not easy. It's probably
No,
the
it isn't. It
it's
isn't.
probably
Like
the hardest part to manage out of everything is making
yeah,
sure you're still staying connected to your
yeah,
significant other. But we're like Erika, like we're in a good place.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it becomes a lot easier when you're on the same page and both of
yeah.
you are supporting what everybody's doing. So it's not like
And you
I
trust each other,
feel
and everyone
yeah,
knows
it's
what's
not like
going
I
on.
feel like we have to have that in order to still feel connected. Um, we're still very connected and on the same page about everything. So, I'm fortunate to be in a relationship like that. So some of that like specific stuff we don't necessarily need, but it is important.
No, I agree. And I wanted to get, of course, the kicker from the Chiefs in his lovely commencement speech at the primarily Catholic Christian college. He has his views on women and their roles. He's not a big fan of Pride Month, and he definitely had a little bit of an agenda, and did not necessarily. I like it. Didn't feel like it was meant to be at a commencement speech. A lot of people were offended by it, and um, you guys had mentioned Travis Kelsey and how he came right out and handled it well and said what was on his mind. Other players just said, we just care that he goes out and kicks the ball. But as women yourselves, hearing a man come out and say what you should be doing with your lives, with your careers, with parenting, with abortion, things like that. It's not really a man's place to kind of jump in and dictate that. So I wanted to get your take. So Erika, you can start.
So I'm a big believer in, and I said this to you in my podcast, and I've said it to you in many of our conversations, that life is full of seasons, right? In general.
Yeah.
And so is time. So we're not in the 1950s anymore, where that was like the social norm for women to be home and be homemakers, and the men were the breadwinners. And that was of that season. That was of that time. We're in 2024. And unfortunately, there's been a little backtrack with some of
Yeah.
the views that are being put out now. And
Yeah.
one of the things as a parent that I've always instilled, and my kids don't know any different, is my best friend has cerebral palsy. Maria, you guys both have met Sarah. My kids know that she is just like everybody else. She has a disability. Right. We don't draw attention to it.
Right.
We have friends that we've traveled with, and my kids call them Auntie Jen and Auntie Jackie, and they don't know the difference. They're married,
Right.
they're happy.
Right.
It's normal. So and I was picking Owen up. He's working with the football team. He might be the varsity kicker, which is very crazy and ironic. Amazing. Yeah, but it's weird how worlds collide.
Yeah.
But,
yep.
So I was picking him up and I was listening to it, and he goes, "Mom, I don't even get that. Why would he ever say that at a commencement speech when people just spent thousands of dollars on their education, and there were women in the audience, and this is one of the happiest days of their lives that they've like graduated from college, and he's talking about their purpose being in the kitchen and raising kids." And that's awesome for me as a mom to know that it affected my son. That isn't his expectation of what women are to do. Listen, there are many women that I know that are amazing. They're stay-at-home moms, and they do a damn good job of it. And that is what they want to do and what works for their family. I know me. I wouldn't be a good stay-at-home mom. I knew that right off.
You'd go nuts. Yeah.
I would go absolutely crazy. Yeah. The kids would not get the best version of me at all. And when they get home now, they get the best version of me. Not every day. I'm not gonna lie. If I have a bad day at work or whatever, but I try to shut it down, and then I get quality time with them. It's not for everybody, but for a man to have that expectation of a woman's purpose is in 2024 is very disheartening that that's where we're at, and those are the conversations that are being had. So that's my take.
No, I agree with you. And Maria?
Yeah, I mean, I went and listened to the whole thing. You know, I'll go on record by saying that I didn't think it was as bad as like all the excerpts that I was reading, right? That people
they took a lot of things out of context. They
Yeah.
did take things out of context. Yes.
I went and I listened to the whole thing. And I think that, you know, the number one thing that I took from it is someone who really just doesn't understand how other people operate and live. So I think my first issue with it was like, not everybody has the luxury to stay at home and not work.
You
right?
can't afford it. Yeah. I mean, people can't afford to do it.
You're saying to have all these kids and be married. Okay. So if you're married to a school teacher and now you're a stay-at-home mom and you have 5 kids because you're supposed to be at home rearing kids, like and you're living in Connecticut, let's just say.
Yeah.
There's
Especially.
zero chance that you're able to put food on the table. Like
Right.
it's just completely unrealistic. And like he's, you know, making $20 million to kick a ball. Yeah, his wife can stay at home and not do anything. So I think like that was my first take on it, was like, how entitled are you to make this comment? I think secondly, not only did he touch upon women's rights, which he has no business doing, but he also kind of bashed men in a lot of ways, right? So like if a guy feels okay, maybe the guy is the stay-at-home parent, right? Like, and you have a guy out there that doesn't have this persona that like, so he also bashed men in a lot of ways, I think, because it's like, if you're a dude and you're not making enough money for your wife to stay at home, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And
You're fit.
I see how that's realistic. And then, you know, Erika spoke on it. Like, you're speaking to people, you're basically just telling them they just wasted all this money for their education. And I'll take one more spin on it because I was raised Irish Catholic, right? And you know, the hard part with me with Catholicism is like you preach inclusion, but you have these subsets of like things that you don't accept, which is very
yes.
Right. And I'm not like, two things I never really talk about are like religion and politics. I won't go there, but he's so uneducated on Catholicism in general. He went on this commencement speech and encouraged people to only go to parishes that speak Latin masses.
I did hear,
And
I did hear that.
Thing about Catholicism or follows the Pope or the Catholic Church, the Pope has come on record with saying that is not what we want. We want people to attend church, period. If everybody just migrated and lived in places where the Latin language was only spoken at masses, the Catholic Church would implode because they wouldn't have enough parishioners supporting it in different cities and towns and whatever. So he's just a guy that got on a soapbox. Like, I almost think he was paid by the right because, like, listen,
he definitely had an agenda, and he definitely went way.
Think about it like this, right?
Way,
So
way of the.
Colin Kaepernick uses his freedom of speech. Whether I don't agree with what he did either, but it was like, just shut up and play football. Megan Rapinoe did the thing, just shut up and play soccer. LeBron James makes comments, it's shut up and just play basketball. Harrison Buckner makes comments, and it's like, oh, this guy's the best thing ever. Like, make it make sense, you know? So I think that there's a lot of things with it that I don't agree with. And then you have the Sisters of the Benedictine College came out with a statement that basically said, we don't believe anything that he just said.
Right.
So, to me, the guy, he looks like a tool, in my opinion, because it's like,
he does.
You know, and like, was that what he was 100% meaning? Was like, everybody just has to like go get married, have children, marry a man too, by the way. You only can marry a man, like, whatever. Like, think about all the single moms out there.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, so I'm a single mom. Okay. Well, what if my spouse died of cancer when they were 42 and now I'm a single mom? What do I got to do? Just so that I can stay at home? Like, it was very insensitive. It was very ignorant to the times that we're living in. I think most universities now will probably pre-read any commencement.
Yes.
But we were talking about Travis Kelce, and I listened to their podcast, and it was really funny. The other day, Jason came on, and they were talking about it or whatever, and I did think they both did a really good job of like I don't think the guy should be canceled. By the way, I don't really believe in cancel culture. Like, I don't think he should lose his job because he made these statements. Just like I don't think anyone should lose their job
I
because.
mean, it's freedom of speech. I mean, that's
But
what
he said that he was talking to his wife Kylie about it, and that she was getting really sour about what he
yeah,
was.
she's funny too.
And Jason goes, "Yeah, I just told her to be quiet and go in the kitchen and make me a sandwich." Like
Joking around.
But I think that, listen, it happened. I think what it did was, if I had to take something positive from it, it's that you have a lot of people that stood up and basically said, like, listen, this is not the way things are. It's not realistic. Not everybody can stay at home and has the luxury to do that. So he wants to believe in his rights, and he talks about Catholicism and whatever, being Catholic. But, like, dude, get your facts straight first. Like,
you're right. Yeah, absolutely.
And Maria, I have no idea, even in our area, where we would ever go to listen to a Latin mass. Like, no idea.
there's actually, I think one in maybe Waterbury, maybe. But
yeah, like I have no idea. And that's not something I would research.
Well, I'm like, what the heck does it matter? Like, if
I wouldn't understand what they're saying.
You're going and you're listening to the gospel, you're listening to the homily. You're going to, by the way, anyone who listens to a homily or a gospel for that matter is going to derive and take whatever message hits them in that day. What does that matter as long as you're worshiping your faith? So it was ignorant. It's whatever. It's in the past. What is sad is that he actually got a standing ovation. Like,
he did. But I mean, I don't know if the kids necessarily had a choice, or they were in shock, or they just
wait. They were probably cheering that it was over.
So that it was over. Yeah. They were. The last thing I did want to ask was just about politics in general, because I was talking to Erika yesterday, and Maria heard the conversation. It seemed really, when Donald Trump became president in 2016, that the left and the right, started taking things a lot more personally, where if you're on the left or you're on the right, or if you like Trump, or if you like Biden, we can't be friends anymore. Instead of talking about, okay, I like Trump because of this, this, and this. I like Biden because of this, this, and this, and having an objective conversation about the issues. And maybe you agree to disagree. I mean, that's okay. But it seems now it's so heated, and people are so passionate about it that you lose friendships over it. And I told Erika that we had a Sunday dinner at my house, and my two uncles are staunch Republicans. My uncle was the Republican majority leader of our county, and my other uncle is. And there was the rule: there's no talking politics at the dinner table, because my mother is not. So, do you think that, like, 2016 happened and everything changed as far as people arguing and ending relationships over it? I don't remember it being it that way before. What do you think happened, and why do you think people take it so personally now, to the point that they won't be friends or won't talk to a person who has a different view or is in a different party?
Well, I think I mean, I did listen to you guys yesterday when you were talking about this, so I'll kind of briefly overlap on what Erika said. I actually think that part of the problem since Donald Trump got elected president all relates back to social media.
Right.
that he is the first president that decided to have a social media presence, which by the way is not necessarily a bad thing, right? Like,
No, I mean that's where a lot of news happens.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of nice to feel connected to the leader of the free world. I'm not necessarily agreeing with everything that he says or does on social media, but I think
Right.
that it's added a different component where he tried to give more transparency to certain things and was just very not liked, right? Like, let's not forget, first of all, he's a businessman first,
He is.
a little bit of an actor second, right? And now,
That's what Erika said. Yes, he's an actor.
but by the way, like, I would argue that every politician is an actor, right? So,
They
you know,
perform. Yep, they
I,
perform.
I'm moderate, so I'm very much in the middle.
Yeah,
There are things with the left that I agree with. There are things with the right that I agree with. I think that the hatred for him as an individual overlaps sometimes into policies and things that are happening. Because if you actually like, I'm a big policy person, like, so I'll look at agenda and policy in politics. And I was a poli sci major in college, so I look at the stuff a little bit more granular than most do. There there are some policies of his that I don't agree with, but he did a lot of good. If you just take his face off of
yeah,
it and
yeah.
you put somebody there, like, listen, our economy was booming, our relationships with overseas were better, our taxes were better, jobs were better, et cetera, et cetera. Now some of the other stuff that went into there, I would say from a human being standpoint, there are a lot of things that I don't agree with on him from a policy higher level, affect my pocket, affect like my day to day, like as a business owner, that I
Sure,
do agree with. So
sure.
I think that if he was controlling everything like a puppeteer in the background and there was a different face that got elected in 2016,
Right.
I don't know that we would see as big of a divide. I think you would just see the natural divides of the left and the right because it's come to a point where there's not even a left and a right anymore. It's far left extreme,
It is. It is
right extreme.
complete.
And then you
Yeah.
have like people in the middle that are rational that kind of see like we're going to all be better if we work together type of thing. Um so I do think that it's more him as a
Yeah.
human
People
being.
don't like him personally,
I think
and
it's
they
more
don't look at his, like you said, they don't objectively look at his policies and what
correct.
he did.
Like I
They
know
don't
Eric
like him as a person.
or some one of you talked a little bit yesterday about like, the guy's been impeached or he has these felonies, he has this,
He's
he's
been
that.
impeached twice.
But if you're gonna, no president in the history of the United States has ever had to go through the scrutiny that that guy had to go through in terms of
Oh my God!
what the
Just,
stuff that
just to run
like
again. I
like
mean,
if we really really dug into Biden's past and the
yeah,
stuff
the
his
son, and yeah,
years and taken advantage of and et cetera, et cetera, it would be the same exact scenario. But
yeah.
you, you
He
dig up
gets the
see
break.
that.
I
Um,
agree with you.
I just think that as a country, I wish that there were two different people running on both sides right now. I really do. Kennedy is actually, I don't know
Announce that. Yep.
if you've listened to any of his stuff, Erica.
Yeah.
He's very moderate and very rational. Now is he going to get elected? No, of course he has no chance, but because he's running independent. So, and you get people like they'll show up to the polls and it's like, okay, I'm a Democrat, I'm just going to go down the line of blue, right? I'm a
Right.
Republican, going to go down the line of blue. And then you have some people that will vote half and half. I do believe that there should be term limits. I know Erica talked about that yesterday. I mean, you know, even Biden, right? Like he fell asleep on stage this week.
Yeah, I don't know how people expect him to go 4 more years. Like,
I,
there's no
Trump's
way.
falling asleep in court. He's falling asleep here. We got two
Yeah,
people
like,
falling asleep.
You got two 80-year-olds running for president. I mean,
it's bad both ways. But I kind of feel like listen, this is what we have done here, right? Like we've made
yeah,
our
we created it. Yeah.
I mean, I know personally as a business owner, the last 4 years under Biden have been really, really rough.
Well,
From
he's tough on hard businesses and small businesses. Yes,
and well, don't forget, like I'm in the finance world too, so like
that yes,
he's
right.
been tough on the market, like
Yep.
he's been tough on interest rates, like so when you're looking at what you stand for and what you're voting on, like, all right, are we voting to make our lives better? Are we voting because you got to pick one or the other? Are you going to vote for people to be better human beings, or are you going to vote for you to be able to put food on the table for your family? And I think that's kind of
Yeah, that's a
it's
dilemma. Yeah.
there's not a better blend.
Maria, one thing on that though is the people, like obviously business owner, and I want all of my friends and all businesses to succeed. But we weren't, and we got nailed with taxes when Trump took away a lot of the child deductions and all that. So we ended up paying like the government $8,000 that year. So like I think it depends on like where you're at. It effectively directly affects you as a business owner for the good when Trump was there. And then for me, it was like, oh shit, now I owe $8,000 to the government because he rolled things back that were beneficial for me as a parent and as a non-business owner. So I think it's one of these, but the one thing that I'm really concerned about is our rights as women. Is that he has an agenda to take that away to appease his far, far right people. And he keeps talking about this dictatorship, and he's not going to step down as president if he becomes president, and all of these things he said. And for me, as a person whose grandfather fought for our country, and you know, he was in World War II and he was jumping out of planes with no engines. He flew gliders. I think back to my grandfather, he would roll over in his grave because he fought for our rights. And now this person is coming in like a bulldog saying, I don't want people of the same sex to marry each other. I don't want women to have abortions, no matter what the situation is. It's a lot of that negativity that we're hearing. Regardless of policy, that's what he's focusing on because he's really wanting to appeal to those far right evangelical MAGA, that group, because that's where his base is really. And that scares me as a mom and as a American.
Right.
Yeah, I totally see that side too. I mean, I get what you're saying in terms of the, how it affects you as parents. Obviously, I felt that stuff too. Again, I think that, and I'm not a Trumper. I'm not a Biden person. Like I said, I'm
totally I'm neither. I think we should write ourselves in. No, Maria Conlon for president.
Yeah.
I'm on board. Yeah.
I'm on board with that.
Like, again, I think that depending on what news channel you're listening to, and you're going to hear a different dialogue. So like Trump, actually, when he was president, there were more states that legalized same-sex marriages than any president before. Little fun fact, Trump's manager of 3 of his major restaurants is homosexual. So I think that he gets lumped in. Yeah, I think he gets lumped in to not supporting certain, like he's never come out and said that he cares one way or the other if you have same-sex marriages. The abortion thing and the women's rights things, yes, I will agree with that one. And I don't think that a religion should ever dictate policy from a federal standpoint, because not everybody believes in the same religion. So, that one, I think that the right plays too much into the Catholicism, Christianity of women's rights. And like, listen, I'm not going to get too deep into this. I don't believe in abortion to just abort. Correct. So I do believe that there are circumstances that are outside of your control as a woman that happen, and you should not be forced to carry a child to term. Now, when you have people get into a consensual situation and make decisions or make them consistently, and are just doing that as a form of,
birth control. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't agree with that part of it.
Agreed.
So again, like even that topic is very in between. Like, I wish they could come out with a law that says, like, okay, you, what are the circumstances behind this? Like,
Right.
did you just have consensual sex and get knocked up and you're 23 and you just don't want to have a kid yet? Or were you raped and you got knocked up and you don't want to care? Like, so I think that there's more conversations around it. I don't think it should be that black and white. I don't think anything is really that black and white, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
I do think that some of the stuff that he's been tagged with believing in or trying to change policy in, like, everybody thought that when he got elected for president, like, okay, no same-sex marriages are going to be able to happen ever. That was so far down on his agenda of what he wanted to do. And by the way, we went all 4 years, none of that stuff changed. Right?
Right.
Like, so I think that sometimes we focus in on issues that are really important to us that maybe aren't really that impactful from, like, there's so many other issues going on in this country right now that I can't imagine that same-sex marriages is even a blip. It shouldn't be a blip on anybody's radar. Just leave it be. Like, who cares who you marry?
Right. No, of course. And I think that, like you said, the media
Yeah,
is the
100%.
main reason. The media controls it.
Yeah,
And the media projects it.
News, or are you watching the other channel, right? Like, what, like, whichever one you watch, even if you watched during the election, like, I remember I would click back and forth.
We used to do that too.
It's a totally different, like, I mean, you're literally just flip-flopping stories, right? Like, so again, I try not to watch any of that stuff or like listen to too much of it. I just, no matter who gets elected, I got to go to work every day. I got to raise my family and I got to deal with the circumstances. So that's where
I wish we could go back to when, like, newspapers would be printed, but the information was like 2 days old. So that's the only thing you could believe.
Yeah.
Because there was 2 newspapers to buy. There was Channel 8 News and Channel 3 News, and that was it, and it just really minimized all of the noise.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I consider myself fiscally conservative and socially liberal.
That's exactly.
That's you're a moderate then.
Yeah, we're moderate.
Okay. Oh, that's good. I'm a registered Democrat, but that's how I consider myself.
Yeah.
I did want to segue quickly before we go into the WNBA because the season is rolling and going very well. And Maria's favorite player, Caitlin Clark.
She rocked it last night.
She's turning it on a little bit. She's turning it on. She scored 30. What are you thinking, Maria, of her now that you've seen more of her at the higher level?
I'm not like, yeah, she scored 30 last night. She went to the line 17 times.
I did see that.
She scored like 11 in the last 4 minutes off of just like they were in a situation where they had to foul. I'm not demeaning her 30 points by any means, but I still think she complains way too much.
She does.
I don't think you can take that out of her, though. I think she's a complainer.
She's not a great interview.
Like, she made the coach challenge a foul late in the game last night, and the announcers, what's funny is that it's the announcers now during her games have become like politicians. It's like they're getting paid to say good stuff about her.
The producers are in their ear telling them,
like, she
don't bash her.
Holds the girl's arm. The ref on the back end calls it. She's yelling at the coach to challenge, and the announcers are like, I don't see a foul there. It's literally still play. They have it like literally paused, and her arm is pulling the girl's arm down. And it's like, I don't see a foul there. And I'm like, this is unbelievable. She's definitely playing a little bit better. If I was doing the scout for every single game, she wouldn't even be scoring. I'm telling you that right now, because she cannot shoot going right. But somehow these defenders are still letting use the screen going left, which is exactly what she wants. So if they would just hedge high on that left side and force her right, then if she goes right, she's either passing or trying to get all the way to the lane. How they're not getting like 10 steals a game, I don't know.
Do you think the league is pushing the refs or the teams or pushing her in general to be the new face of the WNBA.
Well, she already is.
Why?
I think there's any
Yeah, if you read their articles, like their articles are definitely like I was reading an article. She's the fastest rookie in the NBA history to record 100 points and 50 assists. Like they're all about it, you know?
Yeah, I mean everything that they find that like last night it was like she's the first rookie to score 30 points, have 5 rebounds, 5 assists, but like what? Like where are you pulling this stuff from? She's also taking like 25 shots a game. So I don't think any rookie has ever taken that many shots. You know, listen, I've said this before. I think there are major flaws to her game. I think that she's done wonders for women's basketball.
She has a following, yeah.
Yeah, do I think she's should even be in the rookie of the year conversation? No, like they're 1-6.
Right.
And the only thing they've beaten is the Los Angeles Sparks, who I don't even think have won a game. Well, last night they won their first game versus Indiana.
Right.
So she starts playing well and winning games. I'm not giving her any kudos. I'm just not doing it. Sorry.
Well, I compare her like to D, and like I think D is 1,000 times superior to her.
Like, I don't think they're even a comparison, really.
Yeah, I that's what I would say.
So, like Steve, when you look at basketball, right, and you think of like the offensive side, there's 3 levels scoring, right? So, can you shoot? Do you have a mid range? And can you score at the rim?
Right.
She only has 2 of those.
Right.
Right. She's a 3-level scorer. She always has been. Anna Stewart is a 3-level scorer. Candace Parker was a 3-level scorer. This kid is yet to show that she's a 3-level scorer. So how you could be in the conversation of a GOAT who's been a 3-level scorer is just insane to me. And I'll be the first one to admit when I'm wrong, which, by the way,
no, I know.
I never said she couldn't be that. She's just not that now.
She's not there yet. Right.
She needs a good off season to hit the lab and work on something. She did play better defense last night than she has. I think it's because everybody out on social media, although she claims that she doesn't look at social media, I don't buy it.
Yeah, I don't buy that either.
You know.
She doesn't play any defense.
She's got a bit of an ego. She's definitely looking at social media because she wants to boost it a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever. But she did play better last night. They still lost, but she did play better.
Erika, same with you. You kind of feel the same way. She's a complainer. She still has a ways to go.
I'll be honest with you. When Iowa lost, I was at a mother-son event, and I couldn't watch the game. So I just wanted South Carolina to win because I just don't care for her as a.
Yeah.
I just don't care for her.
Yeah.
She reminds me of what was her name? Was it Kara Lawson? She was one from Tennessee that I didn't care for her, you know? Yeah. So she just rubs me the wrong way. Yeah. So when they lost, I was like, it was the best. Like I couldn't watch it, but it was just amazing. Man. So I and that's just my opinion because she just rubs me the wrong way.
And those eyebrows too. She's got those eyebrows.
You know what, Steve? I've never noticed her eyebrows, but
those eyebrows. I don't like the eyebrows.
But when I said she rocked it last night, meaning I'm reading it from a WNBA perspective and not
the way they write it. Yes,
exactly. So, you know,
they spin it
exactly. So for me, like, I would watch, you know, obviously Sue's retired, but I'd watch Dee, I'd watch Breanna Stewart. Stewie's like, you know, just watching her on the court. It's like, she's so graceful. You know, there's just and I love that word graceful in basketball because there are just graceful basketball players. Maria, you were like that. Your shot, you would just like, boop, like it was beautiful. It was just graceful. She just rubs me the wrong way. Like, I don't think I would watch her for enjoyment.
Yeah. You're not going to be buying her jersey.
No.
And Maria's not going to be buying her jersey for her daughter anytime soon.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate both of you coming back to redo the episode. Thank you so much. This is such a popular podcast, Maria. So we wanted to get it right, and I definitely appreciate it. You've been a star. You're a legend, and people love to hear you.
So I got a question. Who has the bird that's chirping in the background.
Yeah, I was wondering that
It's
too.
me, and
Okay.
the reason I'm sorry, I have my headphones in, but this robin has legit been outside the window all day. I was on a conference call before, and I was on with one of my leaders.
I thought it was me, so I moved to a different room, and then
No,
I'm like,
it's definitely me, and I was hoping
hear
you
it.
guys didn't hear it.
Oh yeah, I've been
No,
hearing
it
it.
sounded nice. Sounded nice.
You know, I wanted to bring some serenity to our
There.
to our call.
Nice.
Yes, and it did. This was a great show. We got everything we needed to. Maria, you get more comments and questions than any of the other podcasts. So you're gonna get we're gonna have to do another episode with the question answer period.
Okay.
Because everyone's intrigued. Everyone has questions for you.
All right. Well, hopefully I can answer them.
All right, Erika, excellent job.
Oh, thank you. Glad to be here with two of my favorite humans. Maria,
Yes.
we need a steady habits night.
Yeah, let me know.
Yeah, Erika, great job. Great job again. You're becoming a podcast queen as well.
I don't know about that. I don't think I'll ever meet the Maria Conlon level of podcasting. But.
Well, your numbers, let me tell you, your numbers for a first day listenership for Husky Talk was outstanding. So you may be the first podcast queen because you're the first female I've technically had on Husky Talk. So you're a trendsetter.
Well, listen, there's a lot of female Huskies that
I know, and I don't know. I got to reach out to them because I don't know any of them.
It's all right. So we'll get you hooked up. You have your first big one on Thursday that I've already. Your new producers gotten you in touch with.
I know. You're my new producer now.
There you go.
Well, I appreciate all the help.
Anytime.
Thank you, Erika. Maria, you're the best.
All right, I'll talk to you.
I know you got to go to work. Thank you for doing this. Remember, when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Take 2 oranges and throw them back at life.